I'm not sure about you. I kind of can't wait for the second preseason game against Arizona. So A, we can get some more film to look out of the Ravens, and B, we can, you want to evaluate players. That's what we all want to do. We want to evaluate players, evaluate schemes, evaluate our new coaches. Nothing is more interesting to me, honestly, than the coverages we're playing on defense. And I'll explain why that is before I let this play run. The coverages, you can look at it one of two ways. The coverages dictate how many players are going to be a part of the pass rush. You can say it goes back and forward. So you start with the coverage, and then that determines how many guys or how many players you're able to rush. Or you can do it the other way. You can think about it the other way. I want to rush 5, and then therefore that limits me to certain coverages. Or I want to rush 4, and then I have a wider net of coverages to use. I'm interested in some of the things that Mike Macdonald had them doing against the Titans. Don't think about it this way, like, oh, these are backups. Starters ain't gonna play this coverage. That's not true. That's not how it works. They're gonna play the same coverages, maybe not in the exact same situations, but they're gonna have coverage is installed that every guy is able to play in terms of what position they are on the field. This is the interception by Daryl Worley. Kind of gets turned around a little bit. Plays with a lot of effort. I'm going to show 2 plays, and I'm going to talk about what I would call the drop end. Now, coverage-wise for this, I believe you've got man down here at the bottom. Sorry, not ready for prime time with my clicker. I think you got man down there at the bottom with Worley, and then the safety opposite the drop end is going to blitz. Is going to drop down to play a second-level coverage. Now, I don't think we're playing man here. I think he's kind of zoning this off. So I'm going to illustrate it one more time for you. We've got the drop end, which I think in this case is Chuck Wiley, who apparently has been cut or released. And then opposite him, the safety opposite him, so not this safety on the same side, but the safety on the other side of the field, is going to spin down and take the place of a blitzing inside linebacker. So we're getting a 4-man rush. You can see the inside linebacker edge rushing. 2, 3. We're getting a 4-man rush. You can see it there. The drop end is to the boundary. This is something that Georgia and Kirby Smart use a ton of. There's a lot of teams that do. It's an old school philosophy. Like, it's nothing new. Like, for real, I hate to be a Debbie Downer for people that are like, oh, like, we're being so multiple and so modern. No, we're not, man. From the 3-4 or 50 base, the drop end was a coverage that to the boundary was a coverage that was in the 1950s and 60s. I mean, people used it. I know a guy who still runs the 3-4 but calls it the 50, and he uses the drop end into the boundary a ton. Same concept. Rolls the safety down from the other side. Safety from the same side as the drop end tends to drop to the middle of the field area. So it is a classic old school concept, if you ask me. What I like about it is we're still bringing 4. So let's just do some math. With Wink, a lot of times we were bringing 5, and then to me, numerically or space-wise, I guess I should say, there's just too much width and depth to the field for 6 people to cover. If you were to try to space 6 human beings out in this area, it's going to be difficult to do, or more difficult to do than if you have 7 to space out in this area. That's kind of a simplistic, thought process on it. But, to be able to do that, to be able to cover with 7, you got to be able to get home with 4. Part of that is being a little bit unpredictable, not just always lining up with the same 4 and rushing the passer with, the 4 guys that are lined up there. I know we don't have starters here, but if you want to think about this, who we have, this is your Tyus Bowser dropping off. And then the unfortunate part, this is your Oweh or your Houston. If you blitz in the inside linebacker off the edge, then, and I don't have the end zone angle here, so forgive me, then that means this guy's rushing inside. When I mean by this guy, I mean like your Justin Houston, your Odafe Oweh. That's the player right there that wouldn't be getting another opportunity to edge rush against the tackle. So, not saying this is not a perfect coverage. There are some positives and negatives to every coverage that you run. I'm offering to you that we are trying to be unpredictable. Okay, spinning one safety down, dropping the rush end, whatever his positional name is for the Ravens in terms of their terminology. We're trying to be unpredictable, but we're trying to limit our exposure on the back end by having 7 guys available in coverage. You can see first of all, this is a man backside, but you can see a very clear line of second-level players there. And this is a second down. I have it labeled as third. I have it mislabeled. This is what Malik. Certainly a poor throw by Malik Willis. Like I think he played well. That's not Malik Willis. My apologies. I think Malik Willis played well. This is the guy that threw 2 interceptions, right? So kind of not surprising. But Worley didn't play it great in terms of technique, but he's a high effort guy. That's not the point of this video necessarily. The point of this video is these 2 coverages. I'm gonna let this one run. There's the drop end. I think it's Dalen Hayes. So what does that mean? The safety to the other side is spinning down to the second level. That's to the boundary this time. So we're dropping the end to the field. And then the inside linebacker is blitzing. So they're all connected. Think of like a rope, all right? These 2 players are connected. When he goes this way, he pulls the rope. What happens to the safety? The safety spins down, essentially takes his place. I think you've got a little bit of a mistake here by the inside linebacker, Josh Ross, who actually had 2 other pass coverage reps that were done quite well. This is a completion on a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4. Here's the drop end, 59, Dalen Hayes. You've got a nickel safety, which I think is Seymour, and I don't think he plays this really well either. And again, I think these 2 guys, one of them is Seymour, is too far this way, and Josh Ross is too far that way, creating this opening for the receiver, a nice conversion. I mean, I don't really get off on, all these are backups. Coach, why are you paying attention to this? Like, it's fine in the chat if you want to talk about other things, but I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm talking about the coverages we're playing, which is what our coaches are teaching. Coaches ain't going to spend time teaching this shit to the 2nd and 3rd string guys and not teach it to the 1st string guys. That's not how it works. All right. There's now certainly there are things that you can do with Marlon Humphrey on the field that you can't do with, Seymour on the field, or you can't do with Robert Jackson, who apparently has been released at this point as well. Point is, we're going to be running this. We're going to be dropping the end. I would expect that to be Bowser more often than not. Last year, I think first of all, Bowser's great at it. But let's talk about the inside linebacker for a moment. Hayes is expanding slightly. Seymour appears to be getting knocked off balance by this vertical. It ends up being basically 2 hook routes and then a wheel by the outside receiver to get the corner out of there. So it's a nice read. It's a cool concept. I get it. I just think Ross isn't recognizing that there's a safety spinning down to replace that linebacker. So Ross doesn't need to be real far this way. You know what I mean? He has leverage help over his left shoulder, or outside of his left shoulder. He doesn't need to be this far in towards that sideline. His feet need to be here, if you ask me. Now, some people they'll try to set up a quarterback. So they'll intentionally kind of provide more space and then break on it soon, and I just don't think he did that. Or he misjudged what the quarterback was capable of. So, again, inside linebacker blitzing, and I think Ross is getting too far this way. I think Ross's drop has got to be more here with this safety coming down. And then also Seymour, I got this labeled as 3-ish. It's kind of like cover 3 a little bit. I'll pause it so you can kind of see it. But Robert Jackson takes a man turn. It doesn't really take a zone turn. We got a zone turn up here with Worley. So there's your deep 3 defenders, even though Jackson appears to be playing man, to be honest with you. And then to me, here would be your underneath 4 droppers with the safety, which I think is Stone, Ross. I think that's Seymour and Hayes. And I just feel like Seymour has overlapped Hayes. I feel like Seymour should be here. Hayes should be, right near that hash. And then Dalen Hayes is good. I mean, he's an outside linebacker rush end who's taking a pass drop. You can expect him not to get as much depth. What I mean by depth is, look at what Stone has. Even Ross, I think Seymour is a little too far this way. He doesn't have it. He didn't maintain enough depth. Typically, if you're dropping an end, that's going to be the player who's going to not get as much depth. They don't take pass drops as often as an inside linebacker or a strong safety. That's kind of like to be expected, So to me, you've got the same coverage. Drop end was Chuck Wiley on the first play on the defense's left. Now we got Dalen Hayes on the right. Safety opposite dropping down. And we're going to be better at playing this with our starters. We'll certainly be better. It'd be a nice little coverage mix-up. Are the elite guys, the Joe Burrows, whoever the Steelers end up starting at quarterback, even whoever the Browns end up starting, are they going to recognize it? Well, yeah, there might be some times where as soon as the ball's snapped, they take a look at either this safety or this drop in. That's entirely possible. They're looking to see, are we getting this, essentially exchanging of duties, exchanging of areas that we're responsible for. Will there be things they notice on film that kind of give it away? It's possible, But the more of these things the Ravens have in their pocket, the better off we'll be, if you ask me, defensively, especially with the personnel we have. If we can be a little bit less predictable coverage-wise and maintain our structure, because I will be honest with you, there was times last year for Michigan where they had blown coverages. I would say this is a blown coverage. I think Josh Ross is working too far to his left, and I think Seymour is playing a little bit too flat. He's a little bit too aggressive, too hot, and we're leaving this guy open. When you teach multiple coverages, it's not as simple as just playing one coverage to everything, which Wink didn't do. But man free is what we're talking about. Wink played a shit ton of man free, and he's going to play a shit ton of it with the Giants too. So do you open yourself up to possibly having some more blown coverages? Sure, you do. Sure. But you got to think with your starters, you guys who have the the highest level of in-game awareness and understanding structure and space. You got to think that you got guys that are going to play this better on third down and not leave this opening right on the hash, which is just too direct a throw for the quarterback. If you want to leave anything open, you want to leave something open, down here outside the bottom of the numbers. A longer throw where the quarterback has to turn his body, orient his body differently, to throw it here. This is just too direct and too easy. That's like backyard football throws, if you ask me, where you just stand, 30 yards away from each other and throw the ball back and forth. That's an easy throw for an NFL quarterback and one that we can't leave open. Let me know if you guys think I missed any elements of this coverage. Again, I was only focusing on 2 plays. I think I saw a third time where Jeremiah Moon was the rush. It was the drop end, but we were playing man free out of that. In that situation, it was a third down that Malik Willis converted, I think, in the second quarter. Otherwise, we did show multiple other coverages, and I will have a longer video coming out later tonight if you want to check that out. Let me know what you guys think of this. If me throwing different coverage looks at you in terms of fans and people that want to study the game a little bit that the Ravens are using, at least in preseason. But thankfully, we're going to get a second look against Arizona, hopefully to either see some things that are tightened up or see some of the coverage options we have expanded and become even more multiple.